Hey, Atlas Explorers! Welcome back to the channel where we dive into the rich tapestries of history. Today, we're setting sail into the Viking Age, an era often misunderstood and shrouded in myth. An era often painted as a time of brutal raids and ferocious warriors. But what if I told you the Vikings were more than just raiders? Were much more than that. They were explorers, traders, and even state builders. Stick around and buckle up, because we're about to unravel the myths and uncover the true legacy of these fascinating Norsemen and how the Vikings truly changed the world. The Viking Age was not just about raids and loot, according to Anders Winroth in his book. The Age of the Vikings, these Norsemen ventured far beyond their Scandinavian homelands. They explored territories stretching from the shores of North America to the distant Caspian Sea. And here's the surprising part. The Vikings didn't just take from the lands they reached, they also gave back, contributing significantly to the trade and culture of these regions. These master navigators and shipbuilders connected continents long before the age of exploration. They established trade routes that brought goods, ideas, and cultures together, bridging the East and the West in unprecedented ways. From the bustling markets of Byzantium to the fertile fields of England, the Vikings left a mark far beyond their fearsome reputation. They were not just conquerors, but merchants who forged economic connections and settlers who built thriving communities. The Viking Age, spanning from the late 8th to the early 11th century, was a transformative period in European history. While they are often remembered as ruthless warriors, the Vikings were also statesmen who established lasting legacies across the world. The Vikings weren't just fearsome raiders, they were pioneers who connected the world in ways that continue to resonate today. Neil Price, in his book The Vikings, emphasizes that these Norsemen were also adept sailors, navigating uncharted waters to find new lands for settlement and trade. Their ability to adapt to different environments allowed them to settle from Iceland to Sicily, and even parts of Russia. From the lush valleys of Ireland to the icy shores of Greenland, the Vikings established a network of settlements that connected the known world in ways previously unimaginable. Their ships, as described by Gwyn Jones in A History of the Vikings, were marvels of engineering, capable of both traversing open seas and navigating narrow rivers, which allowed them to establish these far-reaching colonies. Let's debunk some myths. Vikings are often portrayed as bloodthirsty raiders, but that's just one side of the story. According to Winroth, while raids did occur, they were a means to an end, often to establish trade routes and acquire resources. The Vikings were also master craftsmen, traders, and settlers. These longships were key to their success, with their shallow drafts and symmetrical design allowing them to move swiftly and efficiently, whether on the open ocean or up narrow rivers. This versatility enabled the Vikings to launch surprise raids, but more importantly, it allowed them to trade and connect with diverse cultures across Europe and beyond. And let's not forget their artistry. Vikings were skilled metalworkers and wood carvers, creating intricate designs that have been found all over the places they settled. Their ability to blend with local populations, as Price discusses, meant that Viking culture often melded with the customs and practices of the people they encountered. The Vikings were more than warriors. They were bridge builders of cultures. They established extensive trade routes that stretched from the Arctic Circle to the Mediterranean Sea. According to Jones, Viking traders traveled as far as Byzantium and the Islamic caliphates, exchanging furs, amber, and slaves for silver, spices, and silk. Through these interactions, Vikings not only brought back exotic goods, but also new ideas and technologies. They were instrumental in the spread of innovations like advanced shipbuilding, techniques, and navigational skills. The cultural exchanges went both ways. Viking society was influenced by the peoples they met. integrating elements of European, Slavic, and even Middle Eastern cultures into their own. In England, the establishment of the Danelaw shows how Vikings didn't just raid, they settled and integrated. Winroth points out that in these areas, Norse law and customs coexisted with Anglo-Saxon traditions, creating a unique cultural and legal fusion that would have lasting impacts on English society. One of the most groundbreaking moments in Viking history was their journey to North America. According to The Vikings, by Price, nearly 500 years before Columbus, Leif Erikson and his crew reached the shores of what we now know as Newfoundland. They called this new land Vinland due to the abundance of wild grapes they found. This daring expedition marked the first known European contact with North America, highlighting the Vikings' incredible seafaring skills and spirit of exploration. But all good things must come to an end. The Viking Age didn't conclude with a single battle, but rather faded gradually as Viking societies assimilated into the European kingdoms they once raided. The Battle of Stamford Bridge in 1066 is often marked as the end of the Viking Age. However, as Jones describes, by then, the Vikings had already become an integral part of the European landscape, blending their traditions with those they had once raided. Their legacy is still alive today. Many English words, place names, and even legal practices have Viking roots. For instance, the word law itself comes from Old Norse. The Vikings' impact on culture, law, and society is profound and continues to resonate across Europe and beyond. Now, let's talk about some of the most common misconceptions surrounding the Viking Age. When you think of Vikings, what's the first image that pops into your mind? Let me guess. Burly warriors with horned helmets, right? Well, here's number one. Vikings didn't wear horned helmets. According to Neil Price in The Vikings, this image was largely a creation of 19th century artists and playwrights. There's no archaeological evidence that Viking warriors wore horned helmets in battle. Practical warriors like the Vikings would find such headgear highly impractical during combat. But that's not the only one. Number two, Vikings were only savage raiders and warriors. While it's true they conducted raids, especially in the early Viking Age, Anders Winroth explains that many Vikings were also skilled farmers, traders, and craftsmen. They built intricate wooden ships, forged beautiful jewelry, and carved detailed woodwork. The Viking world was much more than just battles and bloodshed. Another common misconception. Number three, Vikings were isolated and uncivilized. In reality, they were highly connected with the rest of the world. Gwyn Jones highlights in A History of the Vikings that their trade routes stretched from the Byzantine Empire to the Abbasid Caliphate, exchanging goods like silver, spices, and furs. These interactions brought them into contact with a variety of cultures, influencing Viking society and allowing them to bring back new ideas and innovations to Scandinavia. Number four, Vikings had no culture or written language. On the contrary, the Vikings had a rich oral tradition with sagas and poems that were passed down through generations. They also used runes, a form of writing, to inscribe stones, memorialize the dead, and even send messages. Price notes that these writings provide valuable insights into Viking beliefs, social structures, and even their sense of humor. These misconceptions have persisted for centuries, partly due to how Vikings were portrayed by the people they raided, and later by popular media. But as modern archaeology and scholarship reveal a more nuanced picture, we see that the Vikings were much more than the sum of their stereotypes. They were complex people with a rich culture, a sophisticated economy, and a deep-seated curiosity about the world around them. And Viking mythology is rich with fascinating stories and characters that have captivated imaginations for centuries. Here are some notable myths and legends from Viking culture. 1. Valhalla. The myth. Valhalla is perhaps the most famous of all Viking myths. It is described as a majestic hall located in Asgard, ruled by the god Odin. Warriors who died in battle were believed to be taken to Valhalla by Valkyries, where they would spend eternity feasting, fighting, and preparing for Ragnarok, the end of the world. The truth. The concept of Valhalla reflects the Viking emphasis on honor in battle and the warrior ethos. However, not all Vikings believed they would go to Valhalla. Other afterlife destinations existed, such as Hel, the realm of the dead for those who did not die in battle. 2. Ragnarok. The myth. Ragnarok is the prophesied apocalypse in Norse mythology, where the world would end in a series of cataclysmic events. During Ragnarok, many gods, including Odin, Thor, and Loki, would meet their doom in a final battle against giants and other monstrous beings. Afterward, the world would be reborn, and a few surviving gods, including Odin, Thor, and Loki, would meet their doom in a final battle against giants and other monstrous beings. Afterward, the world would be reborn, and a few surviving gods and humans would repopulate the earth. The truth. Ragnarok symbolizes the cyclical nature of life and death, and it reflects the Vikings' understanding of the impermanence of the world. It also shows their belief in a world that is destined to renew itself after destruction. 3. Loki, the trickster god. Loki is a mischievous god, known for his cunning and trickery. He is responsible for many of the gods' problems, but also occasionally helps them with his cleverness. Loki's actions ultimately lead to the events of Ragnarok, where he sides with the giants against the gods. The truth. Loki's character embodies the concept of chaos and unpredictability, which the Vikings saw as an integral part of life. He is not entirely evil, as he often aids the gods, but his actions remind us that not everything can be controlled or predicted. 5. The Kraken. The Kraken is a legendary sea monster said to dwell off the coasts of Norway and Greenland. It was described as a gigantic octopus or squid that could drag entire ships and their crews to the ocean floor. The truth. The Kraken myth likely originated from sailors' encounters with giant squids or other large marine animals, which were exaggerated over time into the terrifying creature of legend. The Vikings, being seafaring people, had many myths related to the dangers of the sea. 6. Berserkers were warriors who fought in a trance-like fury, often depicted as being immune to pain and capable of extraordinary feats of strength. They wore animal skins, particularly those of bears or wolves, and were believed to be possessed by the spirit of the animal. The truth. The concept of berserkers likely has roots in ritualistic practices where warriors entered a heightened state of aggression before battle. The term berserk comes from the Old Norse word berserker, meaning bear shirt. While these warriors were indeed ferocious, their supernatural abilities are more myth than reality. 7. The Midgard Serpent, Jormungandr. Jormungandr, the Midgard Serpent, is a massive sea serpent that encircles the world, biting its tail. It is one of Loki's children and is prophesied to play a key role in Ragnarok by fighting the god Thor. During Ragnarok, Thor and Jormungandr are destined to kill each other. The Midgard Serpent symbolizes the boundary of the known world, Midgard, and the forces of chaos that threaten it. The story of Thor and Jormungandr highlights the inevitability of fate, a common theme in Norse mythology. 8. Valkyries. Valkyries are female figures who choose which warriors die in battle and which live. Those selected by the Valkyries are taken to Valhalla to join Odin's army. They are often depicted as beautiful, winged maidens who ride horses across the sky. The truth. Valkyries were more likely symbolic representations of the forces of fate deciding the outcome of battles. They embody the Norse belief in predestination. and the idea that honor in battle was the highest aspiration for a warrior. 9. Yggdrasil, the World Tree. Yggdrasil is an immense ash tree that connects the 9 worlds in Norse cosmology, including Asgard, home of the gods, Midgard, Earth, and Hel, the underworld. The tree is central to the cosmos, with its roots and branches extending into various realms. The truth, Yggdrasil represents the interconnectedness of all life and the cosmos in Norse belief. It is a powerful symbol of the Norse understanding of the world, as a place where all things are connected and where events in one realm can influence another. 10 Viking funerals. The idea of a Viking funeral often includes a scene where a deceased warrior's body is placed on a ship, which is then set ablaze and sent out to sea. This image has been popularized in films and literature. The truth, while some high-status individuals may have been buried in ships, most Viking burials did not involve setting the ship on fire at sea. Instead, ship burials were often conducted on land, where the ship was used as a burial chamber, sometimes covered with earth to form a mound. The practice varied widely depending on region and status. These myths not only reflect the beliefs and values of the Vikings, but also how their legacy has been interpreted and reinterpreted over the centuries. The blending of fact and fiction in Viking mythology creates a rich tapestry of stories that continue to fascinate people around the world. So next time you think of the Vikings, remember, there's so much more to their story than meets the eye. So, there you have it. The Vikings were much more than fierce warriors. They were explorers, traders, settlers, and innovators who left an indelible mark on world history. What surprised you most about the Vikings? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to check out our other videos. If you enjoyed this dive into the Viking Age, hit that like button, subscribe, and join the Atlas community for more exciting adventures. Until next time, keep exploring.